off to the races. I want to welcome you all to Backwards on Purpose. This is a look at all the things that you thought you knew about adults in custody and federal custody and were afraid to ask, or for those of you who think that the feds are a federal country club, I got news for you, they're not. But my first order of business is to discuss a serious situation that is problematic with both former and current federal prisoners, and it's an appeal to maybe a third-year law student or law schools in general. I know that in some of the things I've tried to do, I've approached at least a half a dozen law schools in the state of Ohio to give me some help. You know, I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to do what I wanted to do. And all those calls, well, we don't have anybody that can do that, or, gee, it's really not in our area of expertise. How can a federal lawsuit not be in your area of expertise? It just kind of defies logic for me. So what I'd like to suggest is the guys that are in custody, or even those of us who are out of custody, there's nowhere to go to find out how to file a 2241, which is an in-custody thing, or a 2255, or how to file for a compassionate release. And it just makes it a difficult situation. And the guys don't have access to the internet. So it causes a problem for people. You know, geez, I need to file this, or I need to file that, or, you know, I need to petition the warden to do something, or I need to get something filed with the federal court, and it's just not happening. So how about somebody at one of the law schools in the state of Ohio or around the country put together a how-to manual, not on the internet, but in paper form, so that the guys that are in custody can figure out how to do things. You know, how to format it, how to get the right form, ideas on suggestions on what they might want to write, what they don't want to do, things to stay away from. You know, it would be most helpful. And it has to be in paper form because, again, the guys can't get access to the internet. So the how to put together these motions, the how to put together things beyond being incarcerated, in how to file motions. I personally have been through 3 different sets of forms to file a complaint. 3 different sets of forms. I finally had to call the clerk and figure out what form I needed to use. You know, and that's difficult and cumbersome, and you lose your thoughts, and you get lost along the way. And you know, why can't somebody do that? Why do you just have to say, "Oh, we can't help you with that one"? You know, that's not a good answer. You know, this is something that as a law student you should know how to do. But I don't know how to do it. I'm not a lawyer. I've had no legal training. You know, most of the guys have pretty good sense when they go to the law library and look things up. You know, we know that we need to do this or we need to do that. There's a violation of this statute or that statute. But how do you put this together? You know, take a minute, go through the steps. I don't even know if this is applicable to artificial intelligence or, you know, if there's a way to do it, but put together a manual that they can get through one of the online sellers and actually get a handle on how to do things. You know, you would hate to have to spend the time and the effort to look stuff up, to figure out what's going on, and then all of a sudden you figure out that, well, I used the wrong form or I didn't word it right. You know, and you're competing against big time guys. I mean, if you're going to federal court, you know, you got to get it right, and you know that there's attorneys on the other side that are going to be commenting on what you've done. You know, and if we file these pro se, or you file it under your, for yourself. You're given a lot of latitude. You've given a lot of leeway, but you can't get too much. You got to have it right. You got to have it worded right. What's the issue you're working on? What's the violation of law of the Constitution? Is it an Eighth Amendment right? Is it is it something that relates to a compassionate release? And I'm going to tell you that, especially if it's in the administrative remedy realm, or if it's compassionate release, you're asking your minders to make a decision on something they don't want to decide. I remember at my orientation, the warden was bragging about the fact that he had never approved a compassionate release. Well, you've got guys in there that are sick, that are old, that are having a tough time, that have serious health issues, that are perfectly positioned to be released back into society, maybe on house arrest or at a halfway house, that can get the treatment they need. It wasn't uncommon. I was there. I have advanced prostate cancer. A friend of mine had blood cancer that his body didn't make platelets, and he needed a transfusion every couple of weeks. And it was like, who cares? They don't care. So you need to do something to get some relief. And how do you do that? So I'm asking, and it's just going to be an ongoing subject for me, that to get some help for these guys, both inside and out. If you're out, you have access to the internet, and you can actually read what you need to do. But while you're there, there's no way you can figure that out. And I will tell you that that inmate.com is a horrible source of information, because guys think they have the right answer, and it is 180 degrees from what the truth is. I remember I asked a question of the camp administrator about halfway houses and having been released to home confinement. Well, the halfway house has to have a bed for you. Well, that's a bunch of crap. The halfway house doesn't have to have a bed for you. And in fact, if that person had been conversant with their own policies and procedures, she would have known that that's not a requirement. There's a whole manual on home confinement. It's called 7320.01. It's easy to find. It's easy to read. And they haven't a clue what they need to do. So these are things that perhaps someone can help with, can put that manual together, can sell it at a reasonable cost on one of the online booksellers, and give the guys a leg up. Tell them what they need to do. You can't write it for them, because you haven't passed the bar, but you can certainly give them tips on what to say, how to say it, how to present the issue, and how to do it in a format that is pretty tough to say no to. So give that some thought, and it's an ongoing situation. I read prison newsletters, and there are several good ones that are out, and they tell you need to do this and you need to do that. That's just terrific. I know I need to do a compassion release. I know I need to file this form or that form. But how is the big question. How do I do that? And do I do it with the local jurisdiction? Do I do that back home? What's going on? And I don't necessarily want to have to call the clerk's office to find out what I need to do and don't need to do. And as an example, with the complaint I want to do, just getting the right form took weeks. And finally, a call to the right place. They're so close. There's a little difference in pro se forms. And to get a pro se form, all you got to do is go to uscourts.gov and put in pro se forms, and all of a sudden a whole page of stuff comes up. But then it comes down to, oh my gosh, what do I want to use? How do I want to do this? So somebody give us some help. Quit saying, oh, I can't help. I don't know anything about it. May not be an area of law that you want to practice in, but it can be a good exercise in understanding things. And if you're in criminal law and you work with people within the system, or you're filing, people with whom you're filing appeals or doing other work, it's going to be extremely helpful for the guys. Most of us don't have the money to pay an attorney to do it. Someone can buy a book for $10-15 and send it, but to spend $200 or $300 an hour for an attorney, it's just not going to happen, because we've already had everything pretty much taken away from us. So, it's a tough situation. So, give some thought if you're at University of Toledo Law School, or Ohio Northern, or Case, or Cleveland State, University of Cincinnati, wherever you are, give some thought to having a team put that together and sell it as a neat idea, or use some of the new artificial intelligence stuff to put it together. But it's not going to be a massive undertaking, but it certainly could be helpful to a bunch of people, and you make a couple of bucks at it. So that's our need. It's to help people figure out what to do, how to do it, where to do it, when to do it. It's kind of that basic who, what, when, where, why, and how situation. That give us a boost. Don't write it for us. There's some guys that are pretty good at that. But just what do you do? And if you need to cite a federal rule, that those are easy to find out. But if you put in there, you need to look at Rule 33, Part 2, or Rule 29, or Rule 59. You can look that up, but how do you use that? How do you do that? I think is the big question. So somebody somewhere along the line listening to this, or a retired attorney, or a retired judge, or somebody, give us a hand. Don't leave us sitting in the dark. It's, you can file this for yourself. We're not going to tell you how, but you can file this for yourself. So in this day and age, I find it just incredible that you can't get help. Even the people that are there that are supposed to help, who can act pro se, or can work without fees, they don't want to help you. They don't want to do that. That's too hard. And you certainly, everybody told me you need to get a personal injury lawyer. Well, personal injury lawyers like to do auto accidents. They don't like to do federal tort claims. So if you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to do the research, if you're willing to look at the guidelines that somebody can help you with, you're a couple steps up the ladder, and at least you have a fighting chance of getting something done. So it's going to be an ongoing theme of mine to make sure that the guys get the kind of help that they need, that's going to be effective, and that may result in something happening. The other issue, one of the big issues, is mental health. It's one of the most unfulfilled situations that you could possibly imagine, and unless you're in there, you really have no idea. You're going to prison was my worst fear of my life, and it happened. And it shouldn't have, but it did. And when that door slams behind you, it's earth-shattering. It's anxiety. It's depression. It's guilt. A ton of guilt. I left somebody at home to pick up the pieces. My Social Security got cut off. How's she going to pay the rent and pay the bills and pay the electric bill? you're limited in how you can communicate, and you got to be damn careful what you say, because a minder is always listening. And you need to deal with these emotions, these deep emotions, and there's a lot of PTSD that's thrown in there, and the lack of professional help is something that needs to be taken care of. In my particular set of circumstances, 2 psychologists, not psychiatrists, but psychologists, for hundreds of people. You couldn't get an appointment with one of them if you tried. And then only if somebody's worried about you can you get about 10 minutes worth of their time going, well, are you okay? Are you gonna harm yourself? Well, you seem to be okay to me. Go back and, take care of things. So the BOP, for the billions and billions of dollars that are in their budget, to not be able to attract and retain mental health professionals is an absolute travesty. So how do you fix that? Well, you fix that by being aware of the situation. What goes on in these places. First off, they're built in the middle of nowhere, most of them. So how do you attract the right people when you're sitting in the middle of nowhere? Whether you're a prison camp or a low or a medium or a high prison, guys need mental health counseling. They need to deal with issues. They know that they're going to get released, they're going to go to a halfway house, they're going to go on probation. You've pretty much lost everything, but go be a good boy and contribute to society again. So, how do you deal with that before you even go back in there? Oh, once you're in a halfway house, we'll take care of it then. No, we don't take care of it then, because then you get shuffled to another part, and you're not getting the kind of treatment that you need. It's one of hundreds of needs that prisoners face, and that's both state and federal. And I can't address prisons because I was simply not there. But in the federal prison system, the lack of resources, again, is a key issue. In mental health, dealing with the PTSD, dealing with the guilt, dealing with all the emotions that go into that is just incredibly difficult. And then you come home and you're in shutdown mode. You're just you're into yourself. You're not communicating with anybody, because most people, they don't understand what you just went through. They don't understand the ramifications of that, having never been there, and you can't expect them to. And then you sit there, and one of the realizations I had the other day is that the love of my life had to deal with it as well as I did, and I failed to recognize that. I was worried about myself. I was worried about my PTSD and my anxiety and my depression, and trying to move on and trying to get things done. And one of the most important things is the folks at WBGU have given me the opportunity to use this microphone to be a voice for all of us. To actually do something to affect some change. And the only way we can affect change is to be aware of what's going on. And that's not only for the guys that were inside, but that's for family and friends and anyone else who cares, to become aware of the the what I would call waste, fraud, abuse, and just lack of resources for people. You know, I can't imagine anyone choosing a career in corrections. You know, you might espouse to be a warden or someone like that, but to be a corrections officer, you know, it's in the middle of nowhere. I mean, they're not bad jobs, but who do you think you're going to attract to that profession? You know, they're either Serpico, you know, super cop, or they just don't care. You know, they just absolutely, positively do not care. And it's the same thing with allocating resources. You know, we need a new gator for the yard guys, but, you know, your roof leaks and there's black mold all over the place, and every time it rains, you're cleaning up water. But no, we can't fix the roof. But I'll tell you what we'll do: we'll change the sheetrock so it doesn't look like it leaked. But we're not gonna fix the roof. We might need a new chainsaw, but you know, getting a couple of more mental health professionals. Nah, we can't do that. You know, of course you can, and if you try hard enough, if you affect the change in the organization, if you don't promote people who screw up, if you quit hiring people that are absolutely don't care or think they're Dick Tracy, you know, things might be changing. There's a case in point. Cell phones are a big problem in the prison system. You know, they get smuggled in. They're seemingly easy to do. I never had one, but and I don't know anybody who did. Excuse me, but I know they're a problem. I made a suggestion one time to one of the administrators. Why don't you put in cell phone jammers? You know, a couple $100, and if you can't get a cell phone signal out, or if you can't get a signal in, you've solved the problem, right? Nah, that's not the solution. The solution is to keep the damn thing going so that you can play, you can come in like the charge of the light brigade. You can toss everybody's stuff. You know, you can throw everybody's meager belongings all over the place, toss your beds and sheets and blankets. You know, because that's a lot more fun than simply eradicating the problem, which is to put a cell phone jammer in. Just, it seems so simple, and yet you're not playing their game with them. You know, you got to give these guys something to do. So let's get 10 corrections officers and get everybody out of their housing unit and search them, and you know, put them in a central holding area, and then we're going to go in and we're going to toss everything in your housing unit. You know, that's just, you know, so humiliating and so degrading. And not to say that they don't find stuff, because they do. You know, they know everywhere where they're hidden, and you know, it's just a game. So, you know, start playing like big boys. You know, start acting like a professional organization, and quit wasting the taxpayers' money on stupid stuff. You know, they have a tough enough time trying to attract corrections officers that playing this Mickey Mouse game is entertainment. I don't know. Had one guy that liked to strip search prisoners. That was an interesting thing. You know, how humiliating. And I think he got his ha-has out of strip searching guys. I mean, it's ridiculous, and it's degrading and demeaning. I mean, I know we're in there. You know, you got to pay a price for what you allegedly did. But to actually absolutely humiliate people, you know, and treat them like they're some kind of prisoner of war or something, is just, you know, it's contrary to their mission, which is to rehabilitate people. Remember that. Rehabilitate people. Get them ready to go back. You know, have them deal with the mental issues, and help them be prepared to go home and go back and get back into things without having this 500-pound chip laying on their shoulders. So it's just common sense thing that people don't even know goes on. So aside from getting some people in the law schools to help us with a how-to manual for some common things, to getting people to understand the mental health issues that go on in the prison system, to getting more help to diligently work with budgets so that roofs get replaced instead of gators getting replaced, is just our major issues. And they're just, ladies and gentlemen, they're just the tip of the iceberg. So with that, I'm going to wind up today's session. I have actually no idea how long I've been going. But if you've listened to it and you like it, please let me know. You can contact me. I'm the old guy, and my email address for this show is backwards@myyahoo.com. That's backwards@myyahoo.com. If you've got a thought, if you've got a comment, if you've got a question, please don't hesitate to give me an email. Let me know, and I'll do my best to answer it. And again, I am not conversant with the state penal system. I'm only conversant with the federal stuff. So give me a shout out on my email address, again, backwards@myyahoo.com. And I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank the folks at WBGU for giving me this opportunity. And I'm going to wind my session up, and hopefully we'll see you again in a couple of weeks.
Hello everybody, this is weather anchor Aaron May from BG24 with your WBGU weather. Today we will see partly cloudy skies. The high will be 42 and the low will be 30. Thursday we will see partly